Skirt, skirt. Told you we always been ready. I don't need people that's petty, that weigh on me heavy while I'm being steady. I need a record with Felly, we get it bouncing like Betty's, I feel like I'm Nelly. Don't bring the beef like a deli, it's leave on a levy, no sleeping on me like I'm Freddy. Chris Breeze, how I do, hit him with the moves. Left hand step back, ballin' like I'm Coos. All faith, God's plan, you just gotta choose. God slaps, nothing left to prove. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Lately I've been in my zone. Told them no cap like I fitted, but lately the flows have been straight off the dome. I feel like I'm MVP, like my name Patty Mahomes. If it ain't about money, don't hit up my phone, cause lately I've been in my zone.
Hello, welcome to the Cowboy Show, hosted by Ben Carey and Nick Gronerad, combining expert human opinions with cutting-edge simulation models to help you arrive at the best picks each week. Inside Edge Community. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's stream. We have a very exciting day of NFL football in front of us. We've got conference championship games. We're going to figure out who is playing in the Super Bowl. The early game is the AFC Championship between the Cincinnati Bengals and Kansas City Chiefs, and the evening game is the NFC Championship game between the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. And if this week is anything like last week was, we are in for an exciting day of football. So Ben, how are you feeling about today?
I feel pretty good. I think my expectations are we aren't going to have football like we did last week, because that was literally the pinnacle of NFL. Like, it's not going to get any better than that. At least I think that's the case. So at least I'm setting my expectations that way. But man, what a week of football. Some interesting matchups. Both teams in both these games know each other, so it's going to be interesting. A lot of storylines. Curious what everyone in the chat has to say, but yeah, I will say this, Nick. Today I don't really have that many strong takes as I did last week.
And I'm actually kind of the opposite. I have a couple plays I really like. I have a prop that I really like in this Chiefs-Bengals game, and I have a prop pair. Kind of weird thing that I like to do every now and then. So a pair of bets to take in conjunction with each other.
Nice. Last week I was confident on a few, the Rams, of course, but yeah, this one I'm just, or this slate of games I'm just like, So I'm glad that you have a little more confidence to carry the show.
Yeah, I mean, and it'll be good discussion. And as always, chat, let us know what you guys are on. Hope everyone's having a good morning. I see we got Sick Money, we got Pick Six, we got Bryce, Ryan, Alex, Big Germ, Jake, Kevin, C. Makash, Juju, Syrian Prodigy, of course, Larry. Hope everyone's having a good day. And let's go ahead and hop into it. So, AFC Championship game. Cincinnati Bengals at Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are 7-point favorites at home. This number's been jumping between 7 and 7.5 for a lot of the week, but it looks like, at least right now, like we're sitting at 7. Over under in this game is at 54.5. So I'll go ahead and start this one off with the model. Model has Kansas City winning this game, not so surprisingly, but it actually has the Bengals covering. So model has this as about a 27-24 win for Kansas City. So Kansas City winning by 3.5 points, and a total of around 51. So Ben, are you with the model here? Do you like the Chiefs to win? Do you like the Bengals to cover? Do you like the under?
So to start off with this game, Nick, I've gone back and forth so many times on this, and I think part of it was the line too when it was at 7.5. Because at 7.5, I had to lean with the Bengals, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good number, but at the same time, something tells me that there could be some regression coming for the Bengals. The Bengals. The Bengals. Not only on offense, but they've gotten away with a few lackluster performances on the defensive side of the ball. But also the offensive line too has struggled a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, the way Burrow and Chase have been playing, and not just Chase, but Boyd and Higgins. You know, that part of me says, hey, Bengals are going to continue that. They're going to keep this close. They can cover a touchdown. But the other part of me says that the Chiefs could win this by 20 points.
Yeah.
I'm being 100% real with that. I would not be shocked if the Chiefs just blew the Bengals out today.
I agree a little bit, actually. So I think the only thing that would truly surprise me is a Bengals blowout win.
Yep.
I think that's kind of not in the cards today, no matter what happens. I'm expecting and hoping for a close game. But I'm going to side with the model here. I think I would have much rather had this be at 7.5 and taking the Bengals. But I think even at 7, I mean, a push at 7 is not the end of the world. It's not like it's a 6.5.
Yeah.
So I would probably side with the Bengals, and I do like the under. So, what are your thoughts on the total? I mean, an under with these teams is a little scary. I mean, we saw what happened with the Chiefs and the Bills last week, where the under was looking great, and then they scored like 20 points in a couple minutes.
I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. No, I wish that were the case.
Get out the crystal ball.
Yeah, I kind of lean with a first half under 27.5, and then a full game over.
Interesting.
Is that crazy?
No, I mean that's not crazy. So, is 27.5 the number that they're offering for the first half?
That's what I see. I would be doubtful if you can find a 28, but maybe it's out there.
I was thinking it would be a little bit lower, because usually second half is higher scoring than the first half, and 27.5 is more points than half.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point.
Although I guess also key numbers.
Yeah. Also, I see a 28.5 on Fox Bet, but that's just one book. So here's my thought process. I don't necessarily think that the Bengals are just going to get off to a slow start, but I could see things being a little slower pace, and then come second half, Bengals could just, if they're in a position where they're behind and the Chiefs are just scoring almost every possession, Bengals are pretty well equipped to score quickly with that offense. So that's my thinking there. Full transparency, I'm not betting any of that, so I don't know what that even means that I'm giving out this, but that's just kind of how I feel this game's going to go. But man, again, something tells me that the Chiefs could blow the Bengals out today.
It's definitely possible. I kind of like the Bengals to keep it close, though. So as far as actual leans for the game, what are we thinking about throwing up?
That's a good question, Nick.
It is a good question.
Because I kind of lean over, to be honest, but full game.
Yeah, I'm not picking against the model.
Yeah. I mean, Nick, it's okay if we don't have anything.
But
I
mean, what's the point of streaming though? We're just gonna sit here for 2 hours and say we're not betting on anything.
We give out a lot of information. That's what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we'll have something in the second game, and we're gonna have props too. So I'm okay. We could put a prop lean up if we have something we agree on.
Here, I'll put up props only.
Yeah.
So speaking of props, let's take a transition into the prop market for this game. So as always, we'll start out with passing yard props. And we've got some pretty high numbers today on the passing yard side of things. So we've got Patrick Mahomes over under set at 290.5, and we've got Joe Burrow passing yards at 288.5. So the model likes the under for both of these guys, which is not so surprising. I mean, the model leans under on passing yards a lot, especially on numbers that are this high. But do you have any leans for either of these guys?
I do.
Wow.
I kind of, well, a lean. I just kind of like Mahomes under today. I'm going to tell you why. I think if the Bengals can, they're going to try to control the ball as much as possible. But two, if they're up, the Chiefs are up, they're not going to air out the ball. And number three, McKinnon has kind of developed into a guy that the Chiefs have trusted on the ground. And I think that's going to kind of cut into this number for Mahomes. So that's my lean. Under 290 for Mahomes.
Yeah, I think I like the under for Mahomes as well. The Patrick Mahomes passing yardage under was my favorite bet in that Bills game, and it was looking phenomenal. He literally only went over on the last pass in regulation to Travis Kelce. That's when it went over. So
man,
it lost, but sometimes sometimes good bets lose. So
Nick, you know what's funny about that play? I had no bets in that game, and I'm a pretty big X's and O's guy. Situational football, right? They had a timeout and they blitzed 5 guys, and I'm like, why would you do that? Because Mahomes has to get rid of the ball anyway, right? Like, there could be no offensive lineman. Well, hypothetically, he would have to throw the ball out at the same time he did anyway. So if they would have had an extra guy in coverage, we're probably talking about Josh Allen right now. But
yeah, very questionable last 13 seconds of defense from the Bills in regulation of that game. So quarterbacks against the Bengals this year, speaking about this Patrick Mahomes, are averaging 264.05 yards per game, 24.5 completions, 37 attempts. The last time that these two teams played, Patrick Mahomes, his stat line was 26 of 35 for 259 yards. And just speaking raw numbers, quarterbacks that have gone over 290.5. Most recent one was Derek Carr in the first round of the playoffs. Josh Johnson on the Ravens went for 304. Jimmy Garoppolo went for 296. Justin Herbert went for 317. Mike White went for 405 against the Bengals. That was the Mike White coming out party. Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, and Kirk Cousins in the early season also went over this number. So a lot of quarterbacks have hit this over against the Bengals. That being said, they've picked it up a little bit towards the end of the year. And I'm with you. I like the Mahomes under, especially because I think the Chiefs are going to be playing from ahead.
Okay, 2 other props I want to bring up with Mahomes. His completions and attempts. What are we looking at?
So for completions, we're looking at 25.5 for Patrick Mahomes, and for attempts, we're looking at 38.5.
Okay. I'm just trying to think, because do we think there's any more value in any 2 of those unders than the total yards?
No, I think I'd rather have the yards under.
It seems like the yards is like inflated, right? Like, well, I shouldn't say inflated, but it's high for a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the completions and attempts because of the big playability. But
yeah, so here's the thing though, is that the Chiefs haven't really had big plays.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Until the last 2 minutes of that game against the Bills, no big plays. Plenty of completions, plenty of attempts, but it's all 10, 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, he's not throwing the ball over the top to Tyreek Hill or Robinson or Hardman or whoever. It's just a lot of shorter passes trying to limit mistakes. And I think that's kind of an adjustment that Mahomes made from the first half of the season into the second half of the season. So I think if you're playing one of these, it's got to be the yardage if you're looking for an under.
Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect segue here, because I just read something from Adam Schefter, and hopefully this is actually true from Adam Schefter, the Tom Brady news. But Tyrann Mathieu is playing today.
Yeah,
so
I saw that on Twitter, so it has to be.
Yep. Yep. From Adam Schefter. He's got a check mark, so he can't lie to us. So Burrow, anything with his numbers?
So I see some talk in the chat about Burrow completions over, sitting at 24.5 on FanDuel. And Kevin asked, can you bet completions on FanDuel? Yes, you can. We have the FanDuel odds feed up on the screen right now. So for sure, anything that we talk about, you can definitely bet on FanDuel. I don't know about Burrow. So he's an interesting case. He's been on fire recently. I mean, I honestly, I think saying that he's been on fire is a little bit of an understatement. Joe Burrow in his last few games. Let me pull up exact stat lines. So the last 4 weeks, he threw for 525 against Baltimore, 446 against the same Kansas City Chiefs team in Week 17, 244 against the Raiders in the first round of the playoffs, and then 348 in the win against the Titans. So he's on fire. Also, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception in that 4-game span. So, for me personally, everything Joe Burrow related is a big fade. I think that 288.5, taking into account his entire season, is probably a little bit too high. But at the same time, do I want anything to do with a Joe Burrow under? Absolutely not. Especially considering the fact that I think that they're going to be playing from behind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So Burrow, for that reason, is a fade for me. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to come on here and make a strong case for an under, knowing the way Burrow's played. And other than me, it's like the opposite of due, right? Well, he's due for a bad game. Like that can't be a solid reason here. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and pick six is right.
I was just gonna say it. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. It's either way over or way under.
Which, if books are, if they're offering some alternative lines.
Yeah, you could do like an alt over 350.5 and an alt under 240.5 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Get them both at plus 200.
That's the Polish middle, right?
Yeah, you just need to hit one of them.
Imagine like watching a game at a bar and you're like, okay, I think he's going under, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit. Okay, now I actually need it. I'm cheering for him to score. You just like completely change how you watch it. I think that's why a lot of people are turned off by something like that, because you at least want something to cheer. It's like a middle, right? Like a middle's weird. Mm-hmm. You're like, all right, score, and you're like, all right, don't score too much. Okay, score a little more, So I do it.
I mean, it's like always rooting for random shit in sports betting. I mean, that's half the fun, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So let's go ahead and move on to the rushing prop market, and there's a guy here that I really like.
Ooh, I know who it is.
Tell me who it is.
I say his name?
Yeah.
Did I?
No.
McKinnon.
No, it's not Jerick McKinnon. He plays for the same team as McKinnon. It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Revenge game against Burrow, LSU guy?
Yeah. No. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to sack Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Right? They're gonna put him in at linebacker?
Uh-huh. That's my prop today.
Wait, wasn't it Jamar Chase who they said had to be a DB?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's hilarious to me.
Coach O doing his thing.
Chase had too good of hands to be a DB.
And then Chase is clearly a pretty good option at wide receiver.
That's the joke, Nick. If we say cornerbacks are wide receivers that can't catch. Kind of the joke. So if you can catch, you're a wide receiver.
Yeah. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I love this rushing over at 39.5 for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And let me tell you why. So first off, you can see the model has it flying over. I don't know that Edwards-Helaire is going to get 19 attempts like the model says he is. I don't think it's going to be that high. But he came back from injury last week and drastically outperformed Jerick McKinnon. McKinnon last week had 10 carries for like 24 yards. Longest carry of the 10 was for 5 yards. Edwards-Helaire had 7 carries for 60 yards. And the long was only 24 or 22. So it's not like it was one big carry that inflated his numbers. He was consistently on the touches that he got getting yards. I think that his volume is going to go up in the second week back from injury. So I think it's not going to be, I think Edwards-Helaire is going to be on the better side of 50-50 on the carry split end of things, especially if the Chiefs are ahead. I think if the Chiefs are behind, you might see a little bit more McKinnon because he's a better option in the passing game. But if the Chiefs are just looking for somebody to grind out first downs on the ground, I mean, Edwards-Helaire is 100% the better option for that. So I think that getting in at 39.5 for a guy who pretty consistently puts up way more than that when he's healthy and the number one back, I think this is a steal.
Mm-hmm. And Nick, on top of that, he's had experience in big games, right? Mm-hmm. He was there last year, so they trust him. You know, they can put him in situations when need be. So no, I like the angle. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think even if it's a 50-50 carry split between Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon, I still think he goes over this number. Bengals run D is bad. They've the last 4 games for the Bengals, they've allowed at least 5.3 yards per carry to running backs in every single game.
Okay, I want to hit you with something here.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on playing both overs?
I don't like the McKinnon rushing over. I'd be okay with a McKinnon pass receiving over, but I really don't like this number for McKinnon.
You think it's a little high?
I think it's too high.
I'm just a little worried that the workload could be split.
I think even if it's split, I mean, maybe McKinnon goes over, but McKinnon just as a ball carrier isn't all that great. A lot of his utility comes in the passing game.
They will utilize him more as a receiving threat, so that's fair. What about Gore? Is he even in the do we even talk about him?
No, we don't talk about Derek Gore.
It's funny, like 5 weeks ago I remember we were talking about his props and such, and then he just kind of fell out of the running back rotation. So but McKinnon's been, this is a great 1-2 punch, right? You get a layer on first, second down, McKinnon can come in on third and then stay in for a few other plays too. So
yeah. But yeah, I love this Clyde Edwards-Helaire play. So what about the Bengals? Joe Mixon has been an interesting guy. I don't understand what exactly Joe Mixon is. I think everybody agrees that he's a very good running back.
Nick, I think there were times where people were saying Mixon was a top 10 running back, beginning of the season.
Yeah, and honestly, talent-wise, I don't know that anything's really changed about that. It's just he doesn't get a lot of volume in this pass-heavy attack.
I don't blame him, right?
Yeah.
I don't blame the Bengals when you have that much success passing the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's also cooled off down the stretch. He actually hasn't had over 4 yards per carry in a game since week 12, which is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of that is like Liluki in the chat is saying is O-line issues, as opposed to really anything that Mixon himself is doing wrong. A lot of running back production just comes down to the offensive line.
Absolutely.
As opposed to who the actual back is.
And quarterback play too.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a story for another day.
That's a story for another day.
But Nick,
go full evil laugh there.
Oh ho ho. So Joe Mixon though, I think this number just comes down to whether we think Zach Taylor and that offense really tries to establish a running game.
Mm-hmm.
But if they get into the second quarter, maybe even the second half, and he's sitting at 3 yards per carry, they could just abandon it if they're having success passing. So it does scare me a little bit playing either side of these because you're kind of playing to that. Because this number, in my mind, is kind of low.
It is low, but does
yeah.
he deserve a higher number than this?
He doesn't. That's the thing.
I mean, again, since that Week 12 game against Pittsburgh, he's had 54, 58, 58, 65, 46, 48, 54 on the ground.
I don't think he's hit his number since that game.
No,
it's probably close.
Yeah, I mean, he's just super close. I mean, and it's consistency. It's not good consistency, but it's consistency, and it really just comes down to volume.
In some of those games too, he's had 20 carries, right? Like,
yeah, well, he hasn't hit 20 in that.
Oh, he hasn't?
No, I mean,
has come close?
Yeah, he's had 19, 18, 17, 18, 12, 17, 14.
Yeah.
So I mean, I really think this is a volume play. If he gets more like 14, 15 carries, it goes under. If he's up in like that 18, 19, 20 range, it's much more plausible that it goes over.
What's his rushing and receiving? That's an interesting angle.
So his rushing plus receiving is sitting at 89.5.
I would rather play that for an over more than anything.
Yeah, I think that's the better look.
Yeah, just because if you're in a situation where
Although honestly,
Bengals are down,
just play the receiving.
Yeah, that may be the best angle too. Yeah.
I think his receiving number is at 29.5.
Yeah, I don't want to be caught in a position with my pants down.
No, me either.
With the Bengals down 3 touchdowns and you're like, "Come on, run the ball." You don't want to be there.
Nope.
I've been there. Sucks.
You've been caught with your pants down?
I mean, in my house.
All right.
Anyways, moving on.
Moving on. So, any other rushing props you want to talk about? Quarterbacks? I mean, the Mahomes is kind of interesting. He's been a little bit more scrambly.
Nick, it's our narrative, man. Our quarterback rushing in the playoffs narrative.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna rush more because this is it. They can't save it for next week unless 2 weeks, I guess.
Save it for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. Burrow comes out and rushes for 100 yards in the Pro Bowl. By the way, which is in Vegas, which is kind of weird to me, but
that is a little strange.
It is what it is. So Mahomes at 28.5, he's definitely scrambling a lot more.
Yeah.
But man,
it's a lot of yards.
It's a lot of that's a lot of yards. But the thing is though, I think his longest rushes his last few games have been over 13, 14 yards, right? He's getting like one big one.
Mm-hmm. So for Mahomes, rushing wise, the last few weeks, he only had. Oh no, I was looking at sacks, not rushing yards. It's like only 2 for 8 yards. No, that was sacks. He had 7 for 69 last week. That's pretty nice. 3 for 29 against Pittsburgh. Those are the playoff games. 54 and 25, the last 2 regular season games. So he's been right around this number. I don't know if I actually want to take an over here though.
No.
Right, so
Burrow,
Burrow's also
Yeah. We can hop into receiving.
All right, so I have a really interesting receiving stat when the time is right. But first off, is there a team that you'd like to start with on the receiving end?
Let's just go with the Bengals.
Let's go with the Bengals. All right.
Tyler Boyd in my face.
So we've got hold on, let me get this. We've got only Bengals guys.
God, T. Higgins, that number has been climbing.
Mm-hmm. It has. So we have Tyler Boyd, 41.5. T. Higgins over under 70.5. Jamar Chase, another number that's climbing, over under 83.5. We've got CJ Uzoma, over under 35.5. We've got
that's
Joe
been
Mixon,
climbing,
over under 29.5. And that's it.
I'm pretty sure CJ Uzoma, his number was like 21 like 4 weeks ago, and then it was like 28 and 30. Mm-hmm. Here we are, because I mean he's been getting targets.
Yeah, he has.
I'm scared. I'm scared of all these props. I hope you have something, because I just feel like if I try to go contrarian, chase under, he's gonna go for like 120 yards, and then I don't know what to think here.
Yeah,
what
so
are your thoughts?
I have a really interesting stat. about how receivers have done against the Chiefs in the second game when teams have played against the Chiefs. So
This year.
Yeah. So there have been 6 teams before the Bengals that have played the Chiefs twice.
6?
Yeah. So the 4 divisional opponents plus their first 2 playoff opponents.
It'd be 3, right? 3 divisional?
Oh, yeah. So 5.
5 maybe?
5, yeah.
Okay.
They
Cool.
they don't play themselves.
So 5.
Yeah. So, 1 second. Let me pull this up again. So the leading receiver in those games changes quite drastically every single time. And I'm curious what your thought on this is. Is it like a schematic thing or is it a coincidence? So let me run through the numbers.
The Broncos, I could definitely kind of tell you, but let's go through them.
So the Chargers, the first time that they played in week 3, Mike Williams was the big guy. 7 catches for 122 yards. The second time that they played, Mike Williams had a much worse game, only 3 catches for 49 yards, and Keenan Allen instead was the top guy. 6 catches for 78 and a touchdown. So leading receiver changed when they played the Chargers. With the Bills, the first time that they played, it was Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders. Plus, Dawson Knox was really the big one. He had like 117 yards. All 3 of those guys sucked last week, and it was instead Gabriel Davis. So again, the guys who do well the first time don't do well. Guys who underperform the first game do well the second time. It's the same with the Raiders. It was Bryan Edwards who went for 88 in week 10. And then in week 14, Edwards only had 24, and instead it was Hunter Renfrow who had 117. So again, you're seeing a switch. And with the Broncos, it was Jerry Jeudy, 77 yards the first time. And then the second time around with the Broncos, it was instead Tim Patrick. And lastly, with the Steelers, it was Deontay Johnson the first time around. And then it was James Washington was their leading receiver the second time. So, Jamar Chase in week 17 against the Chiefs had the best game a receiver's had this year, aside from until Gabriel Davis in the playoffs. 11 catches for 266 and 3 touchdowns. So if there's anything kind of cause and effect going on in the stats that I was just saying, it's going to be somebody else. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you think this is the Chiefs watching film, identifying the guy who had the most success against them and trying to scheme them out? Or do you think it's kind of just a coincidence?
So there's a lot to take in, a lot to process there. My initial thoughts are, yes, you're onto something, because I do think there is something there where sometimes a team necessarily on defense doesn't necessarily say, hey, like, we're going to try to just take out the best player. And a lot of times we think that naturally, right? Like, they're just going to double team. At times it can almost be like, hey, we're going to put them in situations when they're trying to go to this player, like in those games where the first guy went off, where they maybe bracket a safety on him on certain formations, and then it really kind of screws up the whole offense. You get those 3 and outs, you get just check downs, right? It's disruption more than anything, but the disruption leads to not that player having another breakout game. So I think indirectly, yes, it's like the team's kind of scheming for what happened last week or last matchup. But the only thing that it worries me is a lot of those games, well, the first few happened earlier in the season when the Chiefs were just, I don't know what the hell was going on with them defensively. Like, we were having conversations if they were even going to make the playoffs, right? Like, and they turned it around.
You were trying to start those conversations.
I mean, yeah, I did have those conversations, but they turned it around. The thing with Chase, though, is he had, 200 plus yards?
Yeah.
So even if he has half of that, he still hits over his number. So that's the only thing that kind of worries me here, because
I'm not necessarily advocating for a Chase under. It's more so that there's going to be somebody else who has a big game.
I can agree with that, because the reason why the other receivers have stepped up and hit their numbers is because of what Chase does to the defense, right? Like, he's all over the place. He's in motion. They'll put him in the slot. All of a sudden, Uzoma has like an option route on a linebacker. It's a one-on-one matchup. And as a quarterback, if you can have a one-on-one matchup against a linebacker, you're probably taking that 9 times out of 10. And then you get T. Higgins and Boyd one-on-one. So I do agree. One of these guys is going to go off. Boyd, Higgins, Uzoma. And he's going to hit well over his number. Now the question is, who is that?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. So Jamar Chase will typically be lining up on the outside, either on the left or the right. Higgins will be on the other side in a standard formation. I mean, of course, it can change up. Boyd will be in the slot, and Uzoma will be at tight end. So if the Chiefs are going to scheme against Jamar Chase, what does that mean defensively? And Ben, you're the one who actually played competitive football, so you know this better than I do. But I think that it's going to be safety help over the top wherever Jamar Chase is, probably in the form of Tyrann Mathieu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what part of the field does that open up then?
It really depends the coverage, but the way I like to simplify it is anytime you see Chase next to another wide receiver, they'll run like a combo route, and a lot of times whoever that receiver is, he's going to be more open because that safety, if they see Chase going upfield, you know, they're gonna kind of go to him, and then you get a one-on-one situation. So it sounds like it's Boyd. It would be Boyd, right?
I guess. I mean, you're the one with the X's and O's knowledge.
But I missed it. Did you say that Boyd is typically lined up more?
Boyd is the
with
slot
Chase?
receiver.
Yeah, I would say if you had to pick between Boyd and Higgins at these numbers, I'm going with Boyd.
All right, so let's. I like this conversation a lot. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Tyler Boyd over 41.5 receiving yards.
I like it.
I like that play a lot.
Yeah.
That's what I was leaning. I'm glad that you arrived at the same conclusion.
Yeah, and Boyd naturally is going to have one catch now.
Yeah.
I thought you knew football. Yeah.
All right.
And then if he goes for 80 yards, won't hear a thing. But I like that a lot. Boyd, yeah.
And so Larry says, I like receptions too.
3.5.
So for Boyd, receptions number is at a very juiced 3.5. Minus 146 for the over. But yeah, I think that either of those are good looks. Honestly, the 3.5 receptions might be the better play, just because he is a slot receiver. He runs shorter routes for the most part. But I don't think you can go wrong. And I'm probably just going to play the yards because I don't want to pay the minus 146 for the receptions. Or no, actually, I'll probably split between the two.
Ooh, a ladder. Ho ho ho. Ho ho ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
Nothing gets me bricked up like a ladder on a Sunday. Seriously, that's not a bad play.
I agree.
And let me explain the ladder real quick, and we'll move on.
Yeah,
it's basically you're playing his over. What is it? What was the number again? Sorry,
3.5 is the standard number.
Or the yardage. It's 34.5.
3.5 for reception.
No. Oh, I was talking about yardage. He said receptions.
Yeah.
I was thinking yardage for
but the ladder concept works the same way.
Yeah.
So you're basically betting a lot of alternate overs. So maybe you put like a unit on the over 3.5, and then a half a unit on the alternate over 4.5 receptions, and then something on 5.5, 6.5, and so on.
Yeah.
So if he has a big game, you like really benefit.
Yeah.
From that.
Yeah. Because we've all been in those situations where you're like, oh, I had the over, but he had 100 yards, but I got paid this. But the other side of it is, if he doesn't hit anything, you're out a few more units. So you have to definitely think of it, Nick, from like the distribution side of things. Like who has that ceiling, you know?
Yeah, a guy with like a fat tail.
Mixon,
we would say,
that doesn't have a high ceiling for rushing yards, right?
Probably.
We wouldn't do a ladder on Mixon. So anyways, we can move on.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Chiefs. And also, I see a lot of questions about touchdowns in the chat. We will get to touchdowns after we touch on receiving props. So on the Chiefs, side of things, we have Tyreek Hill over under 76.5. Travis Kelce also over under 76.5. Byron Pringle over under 35.5. We've got Mecole Hardman over under 24.5. Demarcus Robinson 15.5. Jerick McKinnon 25.5. And thank you, Nappy Kool-Aid, for the tier 1 subscription. Appreciate that. And also thank you for all the follows that have been rolling in throughout the stream.
Yep. So Nadi said, "Don't get me started on Hill receiving yards." I don't know what that means. Okay, Nick, I think
a lot of people took some bad beats on passing-related unders with the Chiefs last week.
Yeah. So, Nick, let's talk about what we alluded to earlier with how the Chiefs haven't been having as many deep shots down the field.
Yeah. Also, Big Germ says, breaking news. Is there important breaking news? It got a holy shit and a breaking news. Oh, Raiders hiring Josh McDaniels.
Ew.
Yeah.
As a Broncos fan, I don't like him. But Nick, the Chiefs, I think, and teams have been scheming against this, is they're just not letting Hill beat them, right? Mm-hmm. They're gonna just put the safeties back, but it's opened the field for other guys. I mean, Pringle, Hardman, those guys are getting open, right? It's very similar to what we're seeing with the Bengals. They're scheming for Chase, and then even Kelsey's getting one-on-one, which is crazy. So Hill at 76.5. I'm staying off of that either way. Kelsey, I lean over a little higher there, but personally, I don't really like a lot of these Chiefs numbers because I'm, again, worried about the blowout.
Yeah. Blowout could definitely throw a wrench into some of those plans. So one thing that I think might be interesting and is a Travis Kelce under. But I got burned so bad on that last week.
Yeah. Was it on that last play too?
No, it was so at some point in overtime.
When Kelce's that's over even worse.
Yeah. The Mahomes passing yards under got broken on the last pass to Kelce in regulation. And then I think the Kelce receiving under got broke at some point in overtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was just that one pass from Allen to Davis.
Can you scroll to Pringle and Hardman too?
Yeah. So Pringle's at 36.5. Hardman's at 24.5. Demarcus Robinson's at 15.5.
Okay. Those are tough.
Yeah, they are.
It's hard to say where the distribution's going to be from Mahomes, but I mean, I like the Mahomes under already, so.
Yeah, I don't think this is a good spot necessarily to Nick special the unders. I'd honestly probably rather do that. Actually, no, it's scary to do that with the Bengals. Don't do that. But yeah, I think a lot of these guys are destined to go under. And the Chiefs in general in the passing game, I hate trying to handicap which guy's going to get looks because they have so many good options. So let's go ahead and move into the touchdown prop market, which we usually hate, but people like it. So let's talk about it. Ben, if you had to choose any guy, regardless of the value, to score a touchdown today, who is it?
Are you saying that every bet is
you get everybody at plus 100?
Oh wow!
Who are you taking?
Well, I'd probably take Travis Kelce then.
So Kelce is the most expensive guy on the board at minus 125, as is Tyreek Hill. It's kind of interesting. Their receiving yard numbers were exactly the same, and their touchdown prop is exactly the same. I think that's pretty interesting. The model actually also has them as like exactly the same. They were off by 1 or 2 yards on receiving yards, and they're off by 1/100th of a touchdown in the model. So from that perspective, who knows? Bengals actually haven't allowed a receiving touchdown to a tight end since week 8. Fun fact. They've only allowed 6 all year. So I might be inclined to lean Hill instead of Kelsey if I was looking for a guy on the Chiefs in the passing game. But I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be an interesting look here. He's sitting down at plus 155, and again, I'm big on Clyde Edwards-Helaire today. I think that just the volume that he's going to be getting is a little bit underrated at the moment by Vegas. So I think if I had to take a guy, I go Clyde Edwards-Helaire at plus 155.
I got like a sneaky off the board one. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Chris Evans at plus 900.
Chris Evans, like, with Mixon and P. Ryan both healthy, like, is getting no snaps.
Didn't he have... Hold on. I thought he had 4 snaps last game. Or 4 carries. Oh, he only had 1. It was 1 for 4. All right, maybe scratch that. Cut the tape.
Cut the tape. Yeah, rewind. Rewind.
I'm trying to look at some of the longer shots. You know what's interesting though is the Chiefs at plus 280 anytime score.
The Chiefs.
The Bengals
defense,
are.
I think you mean.
Yeah, Chiefs defense.
the Chiefs anytime
Yeah.
touchdown score. The whole
Plus
team.
minus 5,000. Bengals though defense special teams plus 600. Double, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I mean I think that's just the Patrick Mahomes factor, right?
When Chris Evans gets that first touchdown, or that, not even just anytime touchdown, just that will be funny.
Yeah. So
first touchdown for Chris Evans, 35-1, baby.
Mm-hmm. So a guy that was getting some talk in the chat, CJ Uzoma plus 240. I like the value on that one as well. I think he's a guy who's been getting a lot of red zone looks from the Bengals, so I think Uzoma is another good value spot.
Mm-hmm.
So any final words on this game? And no, Larry, not Boyd.
Not Boyd.
Boyd just in the slot doesn't get red zone looks. It's other guys get those looks. He literally has. Oh, I guess he actually does have a few touchdowns this year.
Yeah. Do we have the pull option going on right now, or is it not set
No,
up?
there's. I'm not signed into the account.
Oh, that's fine.
Larry, figure out how to make polls
Yeah, come on, Larry.
as a mod.
What are we paying you for? Oh. Best bets though.
Yeah, best bets. So Ben, kick us off. What is your favorite bet in this Cincinnati Bengals Kansas City Chiefs game?
I'm going over 0.5 missed field goals. No, I'm just kidding. Like, we did not talk about that. No. Nick, I'm stuck between the Boyd over and the Mahomes under. Those are like my two.
All right, so I'll let you think for a second.
Well, you're supposed to help me.
Oh, I mean, if it was me choosing between those, I take the Boyd over. I think you're a little. Oh, so I mean, my favorite is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 39.5 rushing yards. That's my favorite bet today on this game.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Boyd over. What are we showing that number at?
41.
Make sure. 41.5.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm gonna price shop real quick. Just making sure, I wanna.
Yeah.
Hold on, it'll be 5 seconds.
Does the unabated dashboard have props?
No,
I'm
not
assuming
right
they
now.
don't. Okay.
So I found over 40 at minus 115. No, I'm fine with the over 41.5 on FanDuel at minus 110 for Boyd over.
All right. Sounds good. So couple quick things, just running through the chat. Somebody likes Bengals money line. It's interesting. I wouldn't as a football fan, I wouldn't hate it. See a fresh face in the Super Bowl. What do we think about Burrow completions? Asks Jack. We talked about it earlier a little bit. My personal take was just staying away from everything passing related for Joe Burrow. Everything's either going to fly over or fly under, and there's not really a middle ground for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm staying away. We're getting to the Rams game next. And Larry says, I'm working on it. Don't see the option.
You know what they say, Larry, work harder.
Uh-huh.
Is that what they say?
Maybe that's what
every time I say that, Nick's face is like, did they say that?
You know what they say?
Yeah, you know what they say.
Proceeds to say something that nobody says.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, last question about this game. What do we think about boosted Chiefs moneyline Kelsey touchdown? So I think that there's a reason why that's boosted, and it's the fact that the Bengals haven't allowed a passing touchdown to a tight end since week 8.
Mm-hmm. What's the boost at?
I would guess that it's probably boosted to like plus
100,
300 or something. Oh no, it's got to be more than that. So,
because it's already. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I was thinking spread, but money line. Yeah, it's got to be.
So Kelsey's minus 125 to score a touchdown. Chiefs money line is minus 340. Mm-hmm. Some correlation there. I would guess that the boosters plus 200.
Nick, here's the quote. You know what they say, and then you know what they say. That's what they say. Got it?
Yeah. Okay. So you ready to move on to game number 2?
I am. I'm looking forward to this one a little more, to be honest.
Yeah, this is going to be a good game. So game number 2 is between the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. Rams are at home, favored by 3.5 points. Over-under in this game has settled at 45.5. So, Ben, what are your thoughts on this game? Why are you looking forward to this one more than the Chiefs-Bengals game?
Personally, I think it's going to be the better game because I don't really see this game either way getting out of hand, and of course, like the spread isn't maybe more indicative of that compared to the other game at 3.5. But I think this is going to be a fun one because both these teams know each other pretty well. I think there's a few more storylines like within the matchup itself between these two teams. For one, the 49ers beat the Rams twice this season already.
That they did.
And then I think if you go back, I think they're 1-4. The Rams are against the 49ers in the last 5. That I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, yeah, something like that.
Oh, whoa. 0-5.
0-5.
0-5.
It's kind of hard to be 1-5 in the last 5.
0-5. Actually, if you keep going back, I'm trying to not go too far when McVay wasn't there, but I mean, 49ers have had their number.
Yes.
So
Kyle Shanahan game.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan game. Also, this game is in SoFi, but there's going to be, I'm going to say, from what I've been hearing, there's probably going to be 40% 49er fans.
Yeah, so you know what's interesting about that is they actually like geo-restricted ticket purchases. Like you have to have and like have to have a confirmed address in the city of Los Angeles.
And they got in trouble for that, and then they stopped. Yeah, because I don't think it's like illegal, but it's kind of like, I get why you're doing it, but you got to be careful with stuff like that. I'm not a lawyer.
Scummy.
Yeah. So, anyways, there's going to be a lot of Rams, there will be a lot of Rams fans, but a lot of 49ers fans. So we got that going on. But Nick, it's the whole narrative, right? Like, oh, it's so hard to beat a team 3 times in a row.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've done it twice.
Yeah.
They beat them 3 times in a row and then beat them 3 more times. So
I'm so torn on this, Nick.
I'm torn here as well.
Yeah.
This is a tough one. So the model has this as a Rams win, 25.27 to 22.95. So about 2.5 points for the Rams, and a total of a little over 48. So it's a Niners cover and an over from the model.
Mm-hmm.
Are either of those leans that you had?
I was leaning over.
All right, let's throw up the over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 45. I get why it's there, right? Like Rams defense, it's stepped up in a big way. 49ers coming off that low-scoring game in the snow, but I just think there's going to be a little more scoring than expected, but it's going to be close. I could see this ending at like 47. So
yeah. So the previous times that these teams played, back on November 15th, the game finished at 41 points. The total was at 49.5. And on January 9th, towards the end of the regular season, the total was 44.5. Total finished at 51 in OT, 48 at the end of regulation.
mm-hmm.
So the total that we're seeing here, 45.5, is kind of right in between the 49.5 and the 44.5 that we've seen the previous two times. And the totals in regulation that we've seen were 41 and 48.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing. So Luke made a really good point. One thing that the Bucs did very well against the Rams that almost led them to win the game is they were chipping the DNs. And basically it's where the tight end is in a 3-point stance, and then he's going to kind of do a half block, slow down the pass rush, and then go out for a route. They did that a lot with Gronk in the second half, and it worked really well. So I would not be surprised if you see that to start the game, which is good for Jimmy G as a whole, but then Kittle, it's kind of sacrificing some of his potential in this one. And I would definitely kind of expect that out of the passing game today.
Yeah, so I guess we'll touch on it in a second, but I'm interested to see how much the passing games are involved.
That's a good point.
In this game. So anything else at the game level? Do you have a gun to your head lean on which team is going to cover?
Gun to my head, Rams.
Yeah, I think it's really tight.
Yeah.
I would probably want to say Rams as well if it weren't for the model. But man,
the Rams, it seems like the Rams since week 10 maybe have not every game progressed, but like over the course of that have really progressed. But the 49ers, it's basically been week 18. They've done the same trajectory. So you have two really good teams playing really good football.
Mm-hmm.
Tough one.
It is. So let's move on to the player prop market, and as always, going to start out with passing yards. So we've got Matt Stafford over under 277.5. Jimmy Garoppolo over under 228.5. And Nappy, I kind of disagree. I think both teams have a lot to play for
I don't
in this game.
Like
I mean,
that
they're all playing to make the Super Bowl. They've all got a lot to play for.
So Nick, last week I wasn't on stream. I was out, but I gave it out in our Discord. You can drop the link in the chat. But I was on Stafford over, Higby over, OBJ over, and they all hit. And I felt really confident about the matchup. At 277.5 though for Stafford, it's a toss-up for me. I don't have a lot of opinion there. But and the reason why it's more of a toss-up is because I think 49 a little more than the Bucs did, because Stafford got a lot of those yards in the first half against the Bucs. But the one I'm kind of leaning on, Nick, this may surprise you, but I think the Jimmy G over 228.5.
And why is that?
So here's why. There's going to be so much attention on Samuel when he's in the backfield and the run game. But I really do believe that there's going to be opportunities for some play action, and coupled with the fact that I think 49ers potentially could be down in this game. 228.5 would be my best lean of these passing numbers, but I'm personally not betting it. I just think that a lot of people naturally are on this because of last game.
Yeah, so both playoff games for Jimmy G, he's gone way under this number.
Yeah,
131 last week, 172 in the win against Dallas in the first round. I mean, and his completions have been low, 11 and 16. His attempts have been low, 19 and 25. I mean, and part of that is just due to the fact that they're winning and they have such an effective run game. So if we're operating under the assumption that the Rams are going to win this game, I mean, then it makes sense that Jimmy G is going to be having more passing yards. So in the last few losses for the Niners, the last loss against Tennessee in Week 16, Garoppolo threw for 322. Before that, he threw for 299 in a loss against Seattle, 326 in a loss to Arizona back in Week 9. So he's flying over the last few times that the Niners have lost. Yeah, he had a couple unders at the beginning of the season, but I do think that since they kind of switched up what Debo is doing, it is a fundamentally different team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's completely changed this team. I mean, if they started having that success with him earlier in the season, they could have been a 13-win team. Like, no joke.
Absolutely.
Like, that's completely changed the whole offense for them. And that's a really good point. And it's tough, right? Like, we're balancing what Jimmy G has done over the last two games versus what they've done against the Rams. And believe it or not, Nick, you know which side I'm leaning on being more predictive?
What?
What they've done against the Rams. Just knowing Kyle Shanahan, I really do expect some. Oh, here I go, Nick. What's the longest pass reception number at? I know you hate these.
For Garoppolo?
Yeah, it's got to be around like
36 and a half.
Over. I love it.
Oh boy.
Might be my favorite play of the day.
So the numbers on this. Garoppolo threw a 43-yarder to Deebo Samuel in one of the games against the Rams, and threw a 40-yarder to Deebo Samuel in the other game against the Rams. So this has gone over both times to Deebo.
I'll put it this way, Nick. I like that more than his total over for the game. Put it that way.
All right. So for me personally, I'm not gonna play anything on either of these quarterbacks in the passing yards market. My favorite plays come a little bit later when it comes to time to do rushing props. And yeah, pick six. You can see it on Nick's face how much he loves those. Yeah.
He hates them.
I do.
But I had some good practical reasoning, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, they hit every time that they don't miss.
Yep. Also, can I throw out a crazy trend? I know we're going backwards, but I want to mention this.
I'd love to hear a crazy trend, Ben.
This has been circulating. People have been bringing this up to me. So it's teams in the conference championship games, AFC, NFC.
Yeah.
38-2 against the spread, the straight up winner is. But when you break that down, Nick, it's really not as impressive, right? Because the underdog, if they win straight up, they cover, right?
Yeah, 100% of the time.
100% of the time. Like, there's no argument. Second part of that is the favorite. If the favorite is around what, -3, -3.5, it's pretty hard to win a game and not cover just because of the margin.
Yeah, exactly.
You're and you can continue on it. But I saw that it was really popular. Why, you should just play the spread, but
yeah. I mean, it's the same thing actually. So we were looking at it's the Polish middle, right? Is this trend? Is the Polish middle is 38-2 or whatever. So we were looking at it. I remember for the national championship game in college basketball last year, when Baylor and Gonzaga played, and I was saying, if you're gonna bet on Baylor, bet the money line, and if you're gonna bet Gonzaga, bet the spread. It's the same type of deal.
But do you think that trend is a little misleading, though?
It's misleading because it shouldn't be as surprising as people make it out to be if you just think about it a little bit. But I mean, at the same time, 38-2 is pretty extreme.
Mm-hmm. I think we would have to dive deeper to see what some of those spreads are because I'm sure there's been some 7.5, 7s, probably a few, but there's probably been a lot of -3, -3.5s.
Yeah. So I mean, what you would need to do is just compare it to similar spreads from regular season games, and see if it's different. Because then maybe it's a playoff effect.
Couldn't there be less variance in the playoffs though?
Well, I mean, but that would make it being a playoff effect as opposed to a regular season effect.
Yeah,
that's trying to see if it's different in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And also, Nick, one last trend that's specific to this game. The 49ers are playing their 4th straight road game. And that's the first. So the only time that a team's won that 4th game, you have to date back to like 1966. But I'm throwing out a lot of that because the way the 49ers are playing right now, and the game is in California, travel's limited, I don't really think that there's much to that. But teams in that 5th spot, they're 0-5. So it's interesting, but I'm not putting a lot of merit into that one either.
Yeah, I'm not putting a whole lot of stock into that.
Yeah. But it's interesting, right? I mean,
that's what, a 5-game sample size going back to 1966. That's like a game a decade.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I couldn't.
But do you think 5 straight road games?
Again,
could be tough on a team.
We have no clue because it happens once every 10 years.
Yeah. I think if they lose this game and don't cover, it's not because of that. We'll put it that way.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
So let's move ahead and take a look at the Russian prop market. We have Cam Akers, an interesting case, over under 60.5. Deebo Samuel, over under 40.5. Elijah Mitchell, over under 69.5. Matt Stafford and Jimmy Garoppolo, both quarterbacks, sitting at over under 2.5. So I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans on the kind of combo prop that I like here. And it's actually not a yardage prop. It's the attempts. So what I have already locked in action on this game, I have both of these running backs, Cam Akers and Elijah Mitchell, over rushing attempts. Played them both individually at 17.5. So here's the reasoning behind that. So both of these teams, the Niners and the Rams, typically will have, at least as far as a running back is concerned, Deebo Samuel is an exception in this. He doesn't really count, and he doesn't impact any of this. But they'll have a one bell cow that they use. Mm-hmm. So one running back will get all of the carries out of the backfield. So I think it is extremely unlikely that both of these guys go under their attempts. Mitchell last week had 17 and had 20 plus like 6 or 7 games in a row before that. And looking at the Rams, I mean, they fed the ball to Cam Akers like 27 times last week, despite him averaging not even 2 yards per carry. And just looking at all of their games, whether it's him or whether it's Sony Michel, aside from kind of the one transitional game where they were switching from Michel to Akers as lead back with Akers coming back, they've had their lead back at 20 plus carries pretty much every game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if you take both of the overs, not parlaying them, playing them separately, playing them straight, I think that it's almost impossible, unless one of them gets hurt, that you're going to lose both of them. So the worst case scenario is you're out 2 VIGs. And I think that there's a lot of upside for both of them hitting. The last time that these two teams played, both teams lead back. It was Mitchell and Sony Michel had 21 carries. So they've done it before. I think this is a good look here.
Okay, so here's my only pushback. Cam Akers had 2 fumbles last game.
Yeah, he did.
Now, part of me says there's no way they're gonna. Someone said it. Put them in the doghouse, right? They can't afford it. It's the game before the Super Bowl, right? you can't show a message, prove a point here. But if Sony Michel gets even 3 to 5 additional carries from Akers, this could go under.
Yeah.
That's my only pushback. That's just speculation. I don't think that's going to be the case, but that is something that we do have to at least discuss. But again, Akers came in basically his first game. I mean, he had 3 games in that final regular season game, but he had 20 carries, I think. So they have a lot of faith in Akers, and one of the fumbles was pretty fluky, but I mean it was a scoring opportunity to go into half. The other one was pretty bad, right? Fourth quarter. Just something I want to point out. That's all.
Mm-hmm. And I'm fully convinced that even if the run game is not working, that the Rams will run the ball. Mm-hmm. They literally gave Akers 24 carries last week.
2.9 yards, I think.
He had 48 yards. He averaged exactly 2 yards per carry. And I think it was under until that last fumble. He was literally under 2 yards per carry. He had like 39 yards on 23 carries or something. It was an abysmal performance on the ground. But they just gave him the ball.
That was the prop that I ended up losing, the one. I had his under, and I got a stupid number on it because it closed at 49 in some spots. But yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they say, whatever, we're here to win, figure it out, hold on to the ball.
Yeah, and against Arizona last week, I mean, it was kind of the same deal. He had 17 carries for 55 yards. I mean, it's better, but it's not good. And in that same game, this was the transitional game. Sony Michel had 13 carries as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the Rams will run the ball 25 times in this game. And I think Akers gets 20 of them for sure. And I think it's the same exact deal with Mitchell on the other side. Mm-hmm. So I like playing them both straight, not parlayed, both rushing attempt overs. So do you have any thoughts on the yards?
What is Akers' number at now?
60.5. I think the yards a fade for me.
Yeah, I'm fading that. 49ers have played pretty good for rushing defense, so.
Yeah, their run D's been excellent. Mm-hmm. They're only allowing 3.5 yards per carry on the ground to backs this year.
Cam could break one, though.
He could. I mean, he hasn't broken one since he's been back.
Well,
no, he did. He had one that he broke.
Yeah, not last game though.
No, not last game.
He was bottled up.
Yeah, I mean, so the last time the Niners allowed a back to hit 60 yards was Travis Homer, who had 3 carries for 80 yards in Week 13. The last time an actual starting running back hit this number was James Conner back in Week 9.
Wow.
What about Elijah Mitchell? So his number sitting at 69.5, which feels a little bit low for him. I think his number last week was 81.5. Mm-hmm. Of course, I think he went under. He definitely went under that number because I had action on the under. But this feels like it could be a kind of sneaky good spot for Mitchell. Rams run D is solid, but it's not elite by any stretch. They allow 3.7 yards per carry against running backs. But I think at 69.5, it's kind of just a volume thing. I think Mitchell's good for 20 carries today. And I think if he gets that volume, he'll go over this number just with the volume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my lean is definitely over, but I guess the one thing I'm concerned about is if the Rams get out to a lead, but...
Yeah, I still think that the Niners will run the ball. I mean, they've given Mitchell very, very consistent workload, win or lose, since week 10.
That's very true. So, yeah, my lean over.
Yeah, I lean over. I like the attempts more, though. Thoughts on Drake Bell?
Thoughts on Drake? I was like, pretty good rapper. No, I don't really have.
I think that's Blake Bell.
And I was like, Drake Bell. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. No clue. I mean, as a dart throw, if you have a read on it, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a read on it. Oops.
Let's talk some receiving props, yeah?
Yeah, let's talk some receiving props. So is there a team that you'd like to start with? Oh, also, I did.
Let's start with the Niners.
Okay. So on the Niners side of things, we have George Kittle over under 52.5. Deebo Samuel over under 51.5. Brandon Ayuk over under 49.5. We have Elijah Mitchell over under 10.5. We have Jawan Jennings over under 23.5, and we have Kyle Juszczyk over under 9.5. Ben, thoughts?
I might go back to the well.
The Jawan Jennings well.
Yep.
Why are you gonna go fishing in that well again?
Well, last week probably not the best time for that. His over just because of the weather, but I mean, I obviously have Jimmy G over. That's my lean, so naturally I think Jawan Jennings is probably going to go over too at that number.
Yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, but that would be my only lean for the 49ers. Actually, what is Kittle's number again?
52.5.
52. Yeah, see, that's already... I was thinking under there, but it's pretty low already.
Yeah, it is pretty low. I think a lot of these numbers are pretty tight to where they should be. I mean, just comparing the numbers that Vegas has, the numbers that the models have, the numbers that the model has, it's like all within a couple yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not only would the Rams try to focus on him, but the chip block too, like if he's in that position. But I think ultimately the Rams are going to be more focused on Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I think that's true. Samuel and Kittle are definitely the guys that need to be schemed out of the game. So, what about on the Rams side of things? We've got Tyler Higby over under 39.5. Cooper Kupp 99.5. Odell Beckham Jr. 54.5. We've got Cam Akers 18.5. Van Jefferson 31.5. Any guys here?
Kind of like the Akers over.
The Akers over?
Didn't you hit that last week and that hit?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the number you got it at, it either hit or didn't hit.
Okay.
I had it at 18.5 as my official pick on stream, which hit. But some books were offering it all the way up to 20.5, and he finished with 20. So it was a case study in why it's important to shop for the best line.
Yep. OBJ, I think his over yards is intriguing. What about his receptions? It's got to be, 4.5?
So Odell Beckham Jr. receptions, over 4.5 plus 126.
You just got to think that the Rams continue to try to get him the ball.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a lot of success trying to feed OBJ the last few weeks. I mean, I think that the change of scenery has worked miracles for him and his production.
I would say over 4.5 at plus money. That's not a bad bet for receptions for OBJ.
Yeah, so the last few weeks, he had 6 catches on 8 targets last week against Tampa, 4 catches on 4 targets against Arizona in the first playoff game, 2 catches on 5 targets against the San Francisco team in Week 18, and 5 catches on 7 targets against Baltimore the week before. And also the last time he played the Niners, he did, I think his Rams debut was in Week 10 when these two teams met the first time. He had
Mm-hmm.
two catches on 3 targets in that game. But I wouldn't read too much into his production there because, again, it was like a scripted play at the beginning of the first drive for him. And then basically he was running sprints.
Yeah. Yep. Get in game shape.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Cooper Kupp, though.
Yeah, so Cooper Kupp, receptions sitting at 7.5. The over is -156. And his yardage
crazy.
number is at 99.5. So are there still people arguing that Cooper Kupp isn't a top 5 receiver in the NFL?
Yeah, but it's not as much as it was like 5 weeks ago. It's starting to
Like
dwindle.
people who say that just haven't watched him play.
Yeah, Nick, it's the whole he plays slot. That's become
Yeah.
like people who say that they don't even know like a thing. And I even kind of disagree with the sentiment, but no, he's playing out of his mind right now. Like he's running so many different route combinations. He can be lined up anywhere. He's cooking guys. I have to lean over here.
At
have to.
99.5. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I have to.
so
But I'm not gonna bet it. Not gonna bet it.
Yeah, the model has him a little bit low, down at like 72.5, which I don't really understand. I'm a little confused by that. I mean, the model did have him like up in the 90s or even over 100 for several weeks towards the end of the season, but it's just kind of dropped for whatever reason. I kind of think right around 100 is where he ends up. I definitely wouldn't play an under, but I don't think I'm going to have any action on Kupp's over. Another reason for that also is just because I think that there's going to be a lot of runs in this game. I just think that the passing volume is going to be a little bit low because the clock is going to be running. So that's something that scares me here.
Good point.
So
good
Jester
point, yeah.
asks, are we leaning over in the Bengals-Chiefs game? So the model has the under. I definitely lean the under. I think Ben is concerned, and rightfully so, I mean, about this turning into a shootout, or even seeing something like what we saw at the end of the Chiefs game last week, where the under looks good, but then nobody can get a stop in the 2-minute drill. Anything else? So what about Tyler Higby? He's another interesting guy. His number is sitting at 39.5.
I was big on Higby and his stock last week, and it hit. This number's creeping up.
This number is lower than it was last week.
I thought it was 38.5.
It was 41.5.
No, you were
last week.
41. You're right.
He's been
interesting.
over this number 6 games in a row, including a game against the Niners.
I don't see why I wouldn't lean over here.
Yeah, I think I would have to lean over here as well. Model has it under by 1.5 yards, but that's nothing. I think Higby's a potentially good look here for this over. So let's go ahead and move on to touchdown props. Again, our least favorite thing to bet on. Touchdown props. Do you have any guys that you like, Ben?
What's OBJ at?
OBJ anytime touchdown is at 155. Plus 155.
I like that, actually. That would be my one.
Yeah, model has him at 0.4 average touchdowns. So I think from that perspective, plus 155 is probably not a great value. But I do think that the model is also just underestimating OBJ's volume in general.
Yeah, and I think with OBJ in those goal line red zone situations, he will get targets. So
That he will.
and a lot of people were upset because the last game it was 3rd and goal and Van Jefferson got a goal line target, but it was the right read. It was just a bad throw. I mean, he's one-on-one on the outside. You have to take that. So I know people got upset because their bets didn't hit.
People get
the
upset
right play.
about everything.
Why'd you throw it to Van Jefferson when you have Cooper Kupp and OBJ? I get it, but they were like double teamed, so.
So yeah, as far as touchdowns are concerned, I don't think I like either one of these running backs. I think that the red zone goal line run Ds are pretty good from these teams. So I would probably look for receiving options as far as a touchdown is concerned. I think that Higby could be a pretty good look. This is sitting at plus 240. Anytime touchdown scorer for Tyler Higby. I think that that's a perfectly fair value. I mean, Van Jefferson, even at plus 290, could be another good option on the Rams. We saw, again, much to the chagrin of people who were on OBJ, but he got a pretty good look in the red zone last week.
Yeah.
So at plus 290, he's definitely an option as well. One other guy that I think is a little interesting is Kyle Youscheck.
That is.
At plus 550. So he actually only has 2 touchdowns this year, which is a little bit less than I thought.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling that he could be a guy who gets a play action pass look on like a 2nd and 3. Or 2nd and goal from the 3 type of deal. It just
kind of like
I have that sneaking suspicion.
It's kind of like McVay and Shanahan going back to when they coached together, and they're like, we always talked about fullbacks being a part of our offenses. Boom, in your face, Kyle Juszczyk touchdown.
Yeah. So I think that they could kind of be saving the Juszczyk play for a key situation late in the playoffs like this.
I like it.
So you ready for top bets today for this game?
I think so. You start though.
All right. So my favorite bet is a weird one, I admit. But I like the both rushing attempt overs for Cam Akers and Elijah Mitchell. I think that it's a near guarantee that at least one of them hits. I think it's very unlikely that you lose both. And I think that there's a very good chance, based on what we've seen from both of these coaches the last few weeks, winning or losing, that they're going to give these guys the ball. So I like taking both rushing attempt overs over 17.5 for Cam Akers and Elijah Mitchell. I played them each for 3/4 of a unit.
Let's go. I like it. All right, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
You thought that was weird. I am going to go with...
again? No.
No, I'm going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo, longest completion over 36.5 yards. I just think that with all the attention on the run game, there's going to be opportunities for either Debo to break one or Ayuk to have a long reception, even Jennings, potentially Kittle. There's going to be those opportunities. I'm going to go with that over 36.5.
All right. He's hit it both times against the Rams this year. So, I think that's going to wrap up the stream for today. Ben, you have any final words?
My final words will be just watch Cooper Kupp. Just watch him.
Just watch him.
So, yeah, sometimes, he won't get the ball, but watch what he does every play. Dude doesn't take plays off. He blocks. I mean, he's a fucking beast.
Cooper
and Debo's a beast too, though. I mean, that's what I'm watching for. I'm watching those two guys. So, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and quick recap for the first game for the Bengals and the Chiefs. Ben's favorite bet, with a little help from me in deciding, was Tyler Boyd over 41.5 receiving yards. And my favorite bet was Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 40.5 or 39.5, I think it was, rushing yards. And the my kind of weird convoluted bet in the Niners-Rams game is playing either like half a unit or 3/4 of a unit on each of the two starting running back Akers and Mitchell, their rushing attempt overs. I think worst case scenario is you're out a couple of VIGs, and I think that it's quite likely that you hit both.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Hey, Nick, can we share this picture? Should I send it in the chat?
Yeah. Actually, can you...
Or should I share my screen?
Yeah, you can just share your screen.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Here it comes. What's it gonna be? Do you see it?
Yeah.
He's ready, man.
He is. That was yesterday,
He's got his
right?
fit.
There he is, Joe Burr.
Joe Burr. I just hate the Chiefs, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to dislike Joe Burrow. That is for sure.
Yeah. Probably have Jackson Mahomes making some TikToks right now. Brittany yelling at people.
Uh-huh.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So you got anything else? Any more pictures? Live look at Jackson Mahomes?
I mean, we could put his TikTok on. No,
let's not. I like the number of brain cells that I have. I'd prefer not to lose any.
Yeah, no TikTok of him dancing. So,
so
that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got as well. Let's go ahead and call it there. Once again, thank you to all of you for being here. Appreciate all of it very much. Thank you for all of the follows that have rolled in throughout the stream. Appreciate all of those. And if you have not followed, be sure to drop a follow. We're live at this point most days of the week, either with NFL stuff when there's NFL, and with some pretty good college basketball content most mornings throughout the week.
Oh yeah, Nick. Also, drop the link for Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
A lot of you may know the spiel, but if you have Amazon Prime, you can sub to someone for free for a month. So choose us.
Yeah, choose somebody, but choose us.
Choose us, yeah.
Don't let it go to waste. It's a benefit that you get that you're paying for as part of your Prime subscription if you have Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. So be sure to support your local Twitch streamer. Simply MV says, "What are we taking?" I'll do the recap one more time. So best bets for us in the Chiefs Bengals game is I liked Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 39.5 rushing yards. Ben has Tyler Boyd over 41.5 receiving yards. That was also my second favorite play in this game. In the Rams and Niners game, Ben's favorite bet was Jimmy Garoppolo over 36.5 yards longest completion. And my favorite bet was splitting a unit or a unit and a half between Cam Akers over 17.5 rushing attempts and Elijah Mitchell over 17.5 rushing attempts. And the reasoning for that is I think unless somebody gets hurt, it's going to be next to impossible that they both miss. So I think the worst case scenario is you're out a couple VIGs. And I think that there's a lot of upside there for them to both hit the way that these coaches have been using them the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 15 minutes until kickoff. I've got to go place a couple bets. Do you guys have any questions about this stuff or about college basketball? I see Long Beach just asked.
I'm curious. I didn't even see.
Can bring that over to the Discord, or I guess we can talk 5 minutes of college basketball. But I do need to go get some bets in. Colorado
Is that game on the dashboard?
And Washington State. It should be.
I don't see it. Wait, COL?
I mean, if it's not on the dashboard, that's
Yeah, it's not on the
dashboard
dashboard.
issue. I know
You
the
got
game.
the
I
score,
know
though?
the game ran. Yeah, let me go find it.
Because I liked the Colorado spread earlier, and I didn't even see what it was at.
Yeah. So what's that sitting at right now? So model has Washington State winning by 2, 67-65. Currently showing 6 as the spread there. So my question though is Washington State getting healthy? I know that they've been missing people.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're getting healthy, that might be a little sketch.
And I think the other part of that too is the line is Colorado is coming off I would say it was a bad loss. They played pretty bad the majority of that game, and it's their third road game, so I can see why people are on the Cougars here.
Yeah, I think 6 is pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Spread wise.
Yep.
Not sure how much I'd trust the model if there's injury, like players coming back from injury for Washington State.
Mm-hmm. All right, Nick, I got to run. Best of luck, everybody.
Yeah, good luck.
Make some money.
Yeah, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right, see ya.